line of shadows.
Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you are here and I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Happy 2022, you guys. I hope that you guys rang in the new year safely and that you guys are looking forward to what 2022 has in store. I know that I definitely am, and I am so excited to continue creating for you guys this year. I am so sorry that this video is being posted so much later than I had anticipated for it to. I rang in the new year and then I got extremely sick and had to take some time to listen to my body and heal, and now I am back and I feel better than ever. What do you guys think of this new background? I kind of wanted to play around with the idea of something a little cozier, and this is what I've come up with. So I would love to know in the comment section below what you guys think of this new setup, if you like it or if you prefer my other background. My kind of idea behind this background is that a lot of the content that I post here on my channel is very spooky or eerie or sometimes dark, and I feel like when I'm sharing some stories with you guys or some cases with you guys, it's like I'm hanging out with some of my best friends telling scary stories or insane cases and crimes. And so I felt like this background was a little more inviting, but as mentioned, I would love to know what you guys think down below. And yeah. Okay, so I am bringing in my first video of the new year with an absolutely insane story time that I need to know what you guys think of this. I have shared so many strange things that have happened to my family, but this has quite literally baffled me. I don't know what to make of this situation. I'm honestly really scared for my mom and my stepdad and my uncle. It's a whole thing, and I am just like, if you ever comment on any video of mine with a theory, I hope and pray that you do on this video because we want to know what you guys think. All right, so let's get into this story time. You guys, I don't even know where to begin because so many strange things have been happening, but it wasn't until recently that we were all like, hold on a second. Maybe something much darker or creepier is actually at play here. So basically, I kind of have to rewind back to the beginning of 2021. Now, you guys know that my mom and my stepdad were having some like insane things going on in their home, but they did move out of that home. Actually, right before my grandma got sick, they had all just moved into a new home out in the country. It's absolutely beautiful. And the idea was because the house was big enough, Grams was gonna live in her own quarter of the house, my uncle in his, and then my mom and my stepdad were to live upstairs in the upstairs of the house. Now, unfortunately, Grandma would pass away before even really getting to live there. I think she lived there 1 week before she was admitted for her surgery, and she unfortunately never returned. So Grams never ended up living in the house. Now, my uncle does live in the house, but my uncle works night shifts. So to kind of paint the vision for you guys, Mama Reese is there all day. She works from home. We work together, and my stepdad will work like for a couple of hours during the day, and my uncle will sleep during the day to go and work at night. And it's just the three of them in their own like living sections of the house. This will all be relevant in just a moment. Bear with me as I'm painting the picture. So a couple of months in to them living in the house, I don't even know the exact timeline just because I didn't think this was relevant information. I didn't store the date and time in my mind, but we had went over there to visit my mom, my uncle, and Jeremy, and we were all just hanging out having dinner, and Jeremy begins to tell me that there is an alcohol thief in the house, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And my mom starts laughing, and she's like, or he just doesn't want to admit that he had like an extra drink or whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Jeremy? And he was like, I noticed it like when we had first kind of moved in, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but basically my uncle doesn't drink, my mom doesn't drink, and Jeremy isn't a big drinker. He'll like occasionally have a drink like on the weekend or if like we're there for dinner. So Jeremy is the only one who typically goes into their liquor cabinet that is in, like it's hidden. It's not like my open bar cart. It's like actually hidden. I didn't even know where the liquor cabinet was because whenever I would go there, they would just like make me a drink. So anyways, he starts explaining that he would notice with like certain of his hard liquors, like the whiskey or the vodka, that he wouldn't have a drink for like a few weeks. He'd go to like have a drink on a weekend, and he would notice that like the alcohol bottle had like depleted significantly. So it was like almost like a good chunk of the bottle was gone. So he's like, what the heck? And he's so confused, and he's telling me this, and he's cracking a joke like, I wish I could blame Grams, but unfortunately Grams isn't here because my grandma was the only other person who enjoyed having drinks. So I started cracking jokes that Grams was drinking from the other side. She was still enjoying some of his drinks from the other side. We all kind of had a laugh about it. My mom was like, you just probably drank more than you thought the last time, and you went in and noticed and were like, whoa, like what happened there? And so that was like kind of a joke, but this is also important to the timeline and the story as to what's going on now. So flashing forward, there were a couple of other little things that were kind of strange around the house. We started joking around that the house was haunted. Actually, in the week before my grandma went to the hospital, she even said like she felt like there was a presence in the house, and I think they named the ghost like just to be funny or whatever. So we were all kind of attributing it to perhaps some paranormal activity. I mean, we are the Reese family. So we don't think too much about that. And then recently, I'll actually insert the text on the screen for you guys. My mom ended up texting me saying that she's freaking the hell out because grandma is definitely in the house. And I'm like, what is she talking about? So I call my mom, and my mom is frantic, you guys. Like, she was mind blown over this. It scared the literal life out of her. So what had happened was initially when they moved into the house, there were 3 dogs. My mom's dog, Bella, my uncle's dog, Moto, and my grandma's dog, Wilson. Wilson actually passed away a month to a T after my grandma passed away, which is insane. And so they only had at this given point in time my uncle's dog, Moto, and my mom's dog, Bella. Now, the way that the house is set up is it's, like I said, 2 separate living quarters. So the entire basement is where my uncle lives. He will come up occasionally like for dinners and whatnot, but he has his own space. And what they do is they put a gate across so the dogs Bella can't go down and bother my uncle while he's sleeping because he works night shifts. So on this particular day, my mom lets my uncle's dog Moto up to spend time up there while my uncle's sleeping and puts the gate back across. So she has her dog Bella and she has my uncle's dog Moto. So they're up there hanging out, and Moto wants to go outside. So my mom opens up the door and lets Moto outside. Now their home is situated like off of a backcountry road on a lot of land, and there's no fence around it. There's like a horse farm right next to it. With like the barn and everything, and then there's like no other neighbors that you can see in sight, and the property is just so big that they just let the dogs out, and the dogs kind of know the perimeters they're supposed to stay within. So she lets Moto out and accidentally gets on a phone call and completely forgets about him. Then she realizes it's an hour later and she never let Moto back in. Now, as far as the people in the home at this time, as I mentioned, my uncle was sleeping downstairs, my mom was home alone, like upstairs, because Jeremy was off working. So she realizes that she's left Moto outside, and you guys, she starts freaking. Like, if you know my uncle, that dog, besides his kids, but his kids are grown and moved out, is his world. Like, he loves that dog. So my mom starts freaking out, and she runs outside, and she's looking everywhere. She's screaming his name, and she cannot find him anywhere. She looks for him for an hour before she has to like go and admit to my uncle, we need to go look for Moto. I seriously can't find him. And she's like sweating, basically crying. Like, imagine losing someone's like prized possession, their like prized companion. Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. So she goes downstairs, moves the gate that like there's no way for Moto to fit through, goes downstairs and wakes my uncle up, freaking out, being like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I forgot Moto outside and he's gone and whatever. And my uncle wakes up and he's all groggy and he's like, you let Moto in. Moto's right here. So another thing I very quickly have to explain, I'm sorry if this is confusing, but all of these details are very important because when we get to what I'm about to tell you, I want you guys to know some previous events that had happened that we all were just like baffled over. To get into the downstairs, as I mentioned, there are stairs, but the gate was across. Now, to get outside from the downstairs, there is a walkout, but there's a little like mud room with a hot tub in it between like sliding doors. So there's the door that opens to go outside, and then you get into like the mud room, and then there's a door to go actually outside. So there's 2 sets of doors, if that makes sense, to actually get into the house or to leave the house from down there. So she's like, no, I didn't. Jeremy's not home. It's just me. I'm telling you, Kelly, I did not let Moto back in. And he's like, he's right here. He lifts up the blanket and Moto is there. So imagine being my mom in this moment. My mom did not let him back in. There's no way he got past that gate, and there is no way he could open 2 sets of doors and close them up behind him and get inside. He is a Yorkie Dachshund mix. So my mom's freaking out, and she attributes it to, oh my gosh, maybe Grandma's spirit let Moto back in because my uncle and Grandma have lived together for a very long time, and Moto was like her dog as well. Like they considered both the boys like their dogs, even though they were each other's, if that makes sense. So my mom calls me, she's freaking out. And she's telling me, Hailey, there is no possible way for Moto to have gotten back in the house. I am telling you right now, there is no way. She quizzed my uncle, like, are you sure you didn't get up and let him in? My uncle's like, I have not woken up since I went to sleep after my night shift. So my mom all day is like sick to her stomach. You guys know, Mama Reese comes on these adventures with me, but it freaks her out. Like she gets a little like freaked out, especially when things are really evidentially like unexplainable. So she's on the phone with me and we're laughing and we think it's Grandma, blah, blah, blah. And a couple other strange little things keep happening and we're just thinking like it's Grandma. Like for an example, something's placed in one place, it ends up in another. We're like, yeah, it's probably Grandma making her presence known, okay? But lo and behold, the night before New Year's Eve, the grand finale thus far would take place. And you guys, I do not know how to explain this. Okay, where do I begin? So my mom and Jeremy and my uncle invited us over to have dinner with them. And I said, you know what? Why don't I pick up some Chinese food on the way? We all love Chinese food. Let's get some. So I end up placing an order for everything everyone likes. And we actually ordered quite a bit because then they could bring it to work with them and we could bring some leftovers home as well. So we end up buying a significant amount of Chinese food and we bring it to the house. Now, I just wasn't even that hungry in that moment, so I ate just like a little bit of it. We all kind of just ate a bit. We're like, these leftovers are going to be chef's kiss later. Like, come on, Chinese food leftovers, it's just always good. It's like pizza, it's just always good. Anyways, we're like all talking about that. We're like, these leftovers are gonna be so good. I'm done for now. So we ended up putting away the dishes and packaging up the food, and my mom specifically divides like the food between like their household and ours. She ends up putting the containers for our household into the Chinese food bag, ties it up and puts it right next to the stove. Like we all see her, and she puts their leftovers into the fridge. So we end up leaving the kitchen area. Jeremy makes him and I a drink. We go into the other room and we're all hanging out for like a few hours. And then I'm like, I should probably be getting home. It's late. I think I had a Patreon Zoom call. Yeah, I had a Patreon Zoom call that night. So I was like, I need to get home for the Patreon Zoom call. So we're getting ready to leave and I'm like, oh, I need to grab the Chinese food leftovers. And at this point in time, my uncle was already back in like his section of the house. So he'd been down there since like we'd ate. We were just hanging out with like my mom and Jeremy. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get like the Chinese food leftovers. So we walk into the kitchen and they're gone. They're nowhere in sight. But keep in mind, my uncle had immediately went downstairs and my mom and Jeremy, like Jeremy made me a drink and him a drink, and we went into the other room and we all sat down and we just hung out. Like no one went back to the kitchen and my uncle didn't come back upstairs. So we're like so confused, you guys. Like we all saw her put it there. She knew she put it there and it's just not there. So we all start like looking everywhere. And at first we're looking in like reasonable places. We're like, did we put it in the fridge? Did it accidentally get put in the pantry? And as we're looking and it's nowhere in sight, we start checking like places that are just like insane. Like for an example, we're checking the garbage, like actually looking through the garbage, because at this point, it's no longer about the Chinese food. It's like a mystery that nobody can understand. We called my uncle up. He's like, I didn't touch it. I already have like my leftovers. I didn't touch it. And so we're looking everywhere. My mom goes and checks her bedroom, like as if she put the Chinese food in the bedroom. She checked the dishwasher. We're checking the oven. We're checking the pantry. We're checking the garbage. We're checking everywhere one could possibly look, you guys. And the Chinese food was gone. Nowhere in sight. Nobody touched it. My uncle hadn't even come back upstairs. Nobody, like you would think maybe someone accidentally threw out the bag, even though it was pretty heavy. Nope, the garbage is empty, and she had just recently changed the garbage, so like you could see what was in it. Nothing in the garbage, nothing in the recycling, nothing in the compost, nothing in the fridges. You're getting the point. It is nowhere. Like, we ended up spending an additional hour there because it was just like, wow, like that is so weird. So at this point, like, we're trying to solve the Chinese food mystery. We end up leaving without the Chinese food because it's nowhere in sight. But the whole ride home, I'm like, okay, so now let's really think about this. The alcohol was kind of disappearing. The moto situation was strange. Now the Chinese food just up and disappeared completely. And there's like no explanation for this. So I'm asking myself, like, what would grandma really want to do with our Chinese food? Like, let's be real. Like, if it was her, I'm sure it would have turned back up in another spot, something funny like that. To this day, you guys, the Chinese food has not shown up. And I'm telling you, this was the night before New Year's Eve. So it's gone. The Chinese food disappeared. Then it hits me, you guys. I watched a movie not too long ago with Jerica, and this movie was essentially about Froggers. I actually researched a whole thing on Froggers because I want to do a video on Froggers. This wasn't the video I envisioned on potential Froggers, but it's definitely strange. So I'm gonna Google and read you guys the definition of Froggers, like by definition. Hold on. Okay, so this website says, what is frogging? Do you hear strange noises in your home or bumps in the night? You may have a frogger living with you. Have you ever had the feeling a ghost lives in your home? Maybe you've noticed open cabinets when you know you close them. Perhaps you've seen the oven door ajar, but you never cook. Or maybe you hear strange house settling noises. Is it a ghost, or maybe you have a frogger? What is frogging? Unlike adverse possession, wherein the trespassers let their presence be known, frogging is a person secretly living in another person's home. The word is pronounced frogging and gets the name because frogs, as the people who engage in this activity are called, tend to hop around from house to house, as a frog might do from lily pad to lily pad. So essentially, it's an individual, for whatever reason or another, lives within people's homes periodically, typically, and they'll often have like their homes that they target often, that they're able to like get in or get out, or like where people work all day and they're able to like eat from their fridge and whatnot. There is tons of surveillance footage. I'll do a whole video on frogging, don't you worry about that one. But like there has been footage of like people climbing out from people's attics and like eating from their fridge in the night. It's just absolutely crazy. And so this crosses my mind because I'd seen the movie on frogging, and I start thinking, what if they have a frogger? What if there's someone living on the property, because they do have like extra like facilities outside the property, like they have their man cave outside, they have like extra garages and whatnot. So in my head I was like, what if they have someone who's drinking their alcohol, who came in and let Moto in, or let Moto back in by accident, who stole our Chinese food and is eating it, and is just like eating their food or like whatnot. I don't know, you guys. This is so strange to me. And like, I do want to note that most froggers are deemed harmless. They don't mean any harm. But the concept of it is so eerie. And I just can't help but wonder what's going on in my mom's house. I don't know if there's someone living within her home or on her property that's like sneakily like having drinks and getting food and doing whatever. But I mean, if it's paranormal activity, what do they want with Chinese food and alcohol? Like, the Moto story makes sense to me. If that was like an isolated incident, I'd be like, yeah, that totally makes complete and utter sense. I don't understand this, you guys. I truly don't. So, and then one of my patrons, I was having the Zoom call and I brought this up to them like real time when it had happened. And they were like, oh, but like there was dogs in the house, and like oftentimes what they'll do is they'll give dogs treats in order for the dogs to like not be aggressive towards them. And then I thought of the fact, okay, just tossing this out here. Every single time we go to my mom's house, we have an ongoing joke that Blue will find every single dog treat that Bella stashes away. And she always comes over and she ends up with a pile of like dog treats that we assume Bella's hidden, which is likely the case. But then I was thinking, oh, she kept coming in the room with all these new dog treats. What if like the frogger was stealing the Chinese food and she's like coming in the room with all these treats and we're like, you little scavenger, and meanwhile it's like she's being bribed. I don't know. One thing I do know is that if Ace saw someone unfamiliar in the house, he would definitely bark. I'm not saying that they for certain have someone doing this, but what I am saying is that was the strangest thing ever. They still have yet to locate where that big bag of Chinese food went. As mentioned, it wasn't in the garbage, so if it's in there, it's going to be rotting soon, and I have no idea where it could have went. But basically, that is the experience that's going on in my mom's house. I kind of want her to get like those indoor cameras just to like see if anything could be happening. But honestly, she doesn't even want to hear my theory. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I ended up calling her on the ride home and was like, Mom, like, what if you have like an individual who's like jumping from house to house and comes to your house at times and is doing these things? And she was like, Hailey, I'm not gonna sleep if you keep talking about this. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hear about it. Just zip it. But maybe if enough of you think something's strange, we could do some surveillance or something, because I just don't know what to make of this. And honestly, I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this. Like, if you think that we're being extreme and that there's like logical explanations, I'd love to hear what you think those explanations could be. If you think it's paranormal related, I'd love to know why you think Chinese food and alcohol and letting Moto in is the move. And if you think that it could be a frogger, I want to know all of your different theories down below. But basically, that is it for today's video. My little update for you guys. I know there's going to be a comment saying like, how do so many weird things happen to you and your family? And honestly, if I knew, I'd love to let you know. I have no idea why so many strange things keep happening to us, but here we are again. Welcome 2022. The Reese family madness continues. Grams, let a girl know what's happening. Guys, the more I talk about it, the more it messes with my head. So I am going to leave this video off here. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my content, definitely hit that subscribe button, join the Reese's Pieces. Strange things happen in my life and I love to share it with you, so I'd love for you to join on board. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Also, what do you guys think of the new background? Let me know. And with that being said, remember my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you.